Thanks for the introduction, Dan. Yes, this was back when we could travel overseas, so who knows when we'll do it again. But this one's about a trip to East Africa, August 2019. And I will forewarn you that there are also lots of animal photos in this as well, I suppose. You see the, does everybody know what the bird is on the front picture? The shoebill, yeah, massive big bird in a monotypic family, so the only species in that family and quite unique. Anyway, right. That not take me to the next slide.
Space bar here.
Sorry?
Get the space bar here.
No, they can't. Ah, okay. Thank you. And I will, if I want to use this pointer, so just to give you an idea of East Africa there.
You can use the mouse.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And we can see that too. So
yeah, cool. Yep. Thank you. Sorry, just bear with me while I get this technology. Yeah, as you can see, South Africa is off the bottom there below Zimbabwe. And then coming up, well, countries that we visited were Uganda, and we started about there at Entebbe. And that's where we did a boat trip on Lake Victoria, specifically to look for the shoebill. And then the second part, we went up into the northwest corner to Murchison Falls National Park, where we spent about 3 days. And then we went down into the southwest corner, just near the Rwandan border, a place called Windy Forest. And the main purpose of that was for the mountain gorillas. And somewhere I'll talk a little bit about the Albertine Rift, and I'm not sure exactly where it goes, but it's a mountain sort of range that runs down this area somewhere, and there's quite a few birds that are endemic to that area. There was no specific birds endemic to Uganda, and I don't think Kenya or Tanzania either, but there are some just to that location there. Righto. As I said, top of my bucket list for the trip was to see the mountain gorillas. And number 2 was to witness and photograph the East African migration and river crossings of wildebeest, zebra, and assorted other mammals. Of course, also knew there'd be plenty of birds, and the almost prehistoric shoebill was top of the list. And after a lot of research, Lynn, my wife, and I decided that we'd visit Uganda, then the Serengeti Plains of Tanzania, and finish on the Masai Mara in Kenya. And we timed it to be when the most likely the wildebeest were going to be crossing rivers. Another thing I found interesting, the grey-crowned crane is depicted on the Ugandan flag and is very highly regarded and revered bird in Uganda. They're very protective of that bird, which is good to see. And its colours of black, red and yellow actually replicate the flag's colours. And the colours symbolise the people. So the colour of the skin, black, red for blood of brotherhood, and yellow for the sun. Yeah, now for those that haven't birded in Africa, obviously you can't do a lot on foot in a lot of areas. Chance of getting eaten by lots of wild animals. So it is mostly game driving. So you do see a lot of animals, but also the birds are very used to vehicles. So a lot of them will come quite close. And if you're lucky and you get most of the guides we've had, although most people that go are interested in big animals, most of the guides know all the birds too, and they're quite excited to actually do some birding instead of just seeing a big fire of animals. Yeah, so I did that, and yeah, we did the day trip to the higher altitude. As I said, we're in Windy Forest in Uganda. And I'm sorry, oh, okay, onwards. This one's for you, Dan. Hope this will cheer you up. This apparently is Dan's favourite bird, so if you ever want Dan to to please Dan, show him a picture of the cream-coloured courser. That was actually taken in Dubai on the way to Africa. That's the shoebill in flight, showing you a boatload of people behind it as to the size. I mean, they're quite massive, their stands. I'm not sure how tall, but they are quite tall in height and really quite prehistoric looking. Okay, we'll run through. So on the way out to see the shoebill and around this little swampy area off the main part of Lake Victoria. So sort of malachite kingfishers, which are quite small, probably azure or even little kingfisher size, fairly common. Pied kingfishers were everywhere in Africa that I've been anyway, along the rivers and swamps. We stayed a night at a lodge inn in Tebby before we went to Murchison Falls. And these are just some of the birds around the garden there. So this is a black-headed gonolek, or used to be called bush shrike. Lots of starlings in Africa, and this is a Ruppel's long-tailed starling. And some of them are quite colourful and can form quite large groups, like some of ours do here, and others can be sort of just in pairs or small groups. Now these guys are huge. Don't know whether you can see, but they're about that size. Called eastern grey plantain eaters. So as the name suggests, they do eat sort of bananas and things like that. And these guys were just in the garden where we were staying. The Hadada ibis, you can see the lovely sort of purple colours through the feathers there with the water, a little bit of rain, and he was just wandering through the garden. Now that's the grey-crowned crane I was talking about, so you can see the gold sort of colour on just the red on the comb and the black sort of colour through the feathering. And that's just a shot of three of them with the Nile River in the background. This is now up in Murchison Falls National Park, northwest Uganda. Another one of the kingfishers, grey-headed, fairly common one that you see frequently, more of a bushland kingfisher rather than on the water. One of the shrikes was greyback shrike, now called greyback fiscal. You tend to, if you know a lot of the Australian sort of bird families and things, when you travel overseas, you tend to find a lot of things. You can recognise what the bird is, even if you can't pin it to a species level. Here we have a black-bellied bustard. Again, a little bit similar to our Australian bustard in its long legs and walking along the plains. The Goliath heron, we did a river cruise on the Nile there as well. And the Goliath heron is the largest heron in Africa, if not the world. I don't know whether anyone knows if it's the biggest in the world, but I think it is. African fish eagle. Again, with boats like cars, they were actually boat was cruising past and he was standing in the water. He just sort of had to move, so he just sort of hopped onto the bank. So they're not frightened of the boats. You can tell what that is, a darter, similar to ours. This one's the African darter, male, of course, with the black. Cuckow, this is the blue-headed cuckow, so you can see some similarities to our own sort of pheasant cuckow. And again, this was from the boat on the river. Little rock pratten cob, and there was a pair sitting just below Murchison Falls, so the water's sort of crashing down, and these two were just sitting at the bottom there. Presume looking for insects and things that were coming around there. And watching the rock pratten cobs was a nice Nile crocodile. Anyone identify the tern in this one? White-winged black, did I hear? White-winged black. Or white-winged tern, I think they're called now. White-winged tern. I was actually following the turn in flight with my camera, and then later realised that he was flying straight towards the hippo. And then noticed 2 African jacana in the bottom part of that as well. And they were feeding, like as the hippo was disturbing the vegetation, they were picking up insects from that. So possibly a little bit of a symbiotic relationship, but I don't know what the hippo got out of it. But yeah, but he was obviously aware that the tern was there, looking at his, eyeing it off. And there's a better one of the African jacana. Yellow-billed stork, just flying past up the river. Lovely sort of pink under the wings. Trying to think Africa, 300 2.8 with a 1.4 converter. Too hard to get the 600mm lens into small planes. Another colony, this is a red-throated bee-eater colony on the Nile, just below the Murchison Falls. There's quite a few birds active around that. And the northern carmine bee-eater. I did get a shot, but not in this slide, that they were actually photographed a couple perched on the back of a warthog. Going along because the warthog was disturbing all the insects, and they were just picking them off as they were going past. These Abyssinian ground hornbill, even though they're in a tree, so don't ask me about that one. The male's got the red on the throat, female blue. Quite a big bird, but they do feed on the ground. Still at Murchison Falls. Some guys see, double-toothed barbet. And if you look really closely, almost from the mouse, you can see that there's 2 sort of shapes there that look like teeth. And there's quite a few different barbets as a family of birds through Africa and also Europe and Asia. African grey hornbill. This was on a post at the airport, crested franklin, or also called spurfowl, because you can see the where's my mouse? The little spurs on the back of the fins, mostly running along the ground, feeding on the ground in sort of family groups. These little guys were fairly common, grey kestrel. I think quite a pretty bird. And that one was sort of almost at ground level, so we were just in the vehicle and we were just sitting there keeping a watch out from an ant mound. Okay, so now we've moved down to the southwest of Uganda from the target thing, mountain gorilla. We had a family group of about 14, and it's quite, you certainly get an adrenaline rush, and it's almost like you feel intimidated in the size and just in the presence of them. And when you see, like he was looking straight into my eyes, and I'm thinking, what are you thinking about, boy? You're looking to be friends, or what? But interestingly, one of the problems they have there is fire ants. And the next day, a different group went to see this same group of things, and the fire ants were agitating the gorillas so much that this guy actually charged one of the people in the group, and the guides have to step in. They don't shoot, they don't have armed weapons or anything, it's only firing to scare them off. Okay, this was at our accommodation in Windy, just against the red-chested sunbird against the wall of the accommodation. I was shooting something else and sort of vaguely aware of movement behind me, and turned around, and I got one shot of this red-chested cuckoo just dived down, got a caterpillar, and was gone. quite a few different species of robin chats we found through windy forest as well, and this is a reasonably common one called the red cap. And then we also had the white-browed robin chat. Tambourine doves were heard more often than seen. That's the only one I actually got a photograph of. Quite a small dove. And now we're up in the Albertine Rift, and this banded prinia is not endemic to that area, but is not terribly widespread. The other endemic there we did was a striped-breasted tit, becoming quite endangered, and near the National Park's information centre they had set up a lot of artificial nest boxes around the place, in which the tits were using to breed in. So seemingly fairly successful because there's quite a few around that area. The regal sunbird, another Albertine Rift endemic, really quite colourful with the sun shining. And looking regal. Again, just around our accommodation, this fellow was there most days, the African blue flycatcher. And slaty flycatcher, that was sort of like just near the breakfast tables and things, caught a moth. Onto Tanzania, and this is the capturing the wildebeest crossing the water, being watched on by a grey heron. Note that there is a bird in that as well. I did that in black and white because I thought it came up pretty well, better than colour, seemed a bit drab. I actually submitted that for the Australian Photography Society National Awards in 2019, and it got accepted into that, so quite happy with that. Male ostrich, actually in breeding plumage, they do get quite red necks and legs when they're in breeding plumage. These little guys, again, fairly common. Brown parrot, about the size of a musk lorikeet, probably. And pygmy falcon, again, quite tiny, only about 30 centimetres long with that, 20 to 30. Not the cream coloured courser, sorry Dan, but the Temminix this time. And again, that's fairly common on the plains. We were heading home from our first game drive in Tanzania, and we went down through a little ditch, and something caught my eye, and I said to the guy, just reverse back and have a look. There was a lump that looked bigger than a bit of elephant poo in there. And it was this little greater painted snipe. So. Yep. And cheetah, obviously on the move. And leopard. Now, just a quick series of lions. The female, the lionesses are the ones that generally hunt and catch the food. And then the male then eats first, and I'll say nothing more about that. When the male's finished what he wants to eat, then the female comes in. She was eating, but also another prey caught her eye. Cubs have to wait till mum finishes. And then she's happy for the cubs to come in then, and she's got her eye on something else. And next minute, she's got this, like in about a minute later, she appeared with that one as well. And she wouldn't let the male was full, and she wouldn't let anyone near it. She ate it all herself. Yeah, but just sitting there, you can, like in the vehicle, if you've got a good guide, you can just sit there for as long as you want. And we watched this whole sort of scene for probably an hour. And then the vultures come in. This one's a white-backed vulture, which is probably one of the most common vultures there. And there's a pecking order in the vultures, and it often doesn't go by size. These guys in sheer numbers will get the best out of carcass, and the bigger ones just set out to wait. Secretary bird with the wildebeest in the background. Again, this is a raptor, and they walk the plains, they catch snakes and everything with their legs and insects. And again, they're a single monotypic family, so it's the only bird in that family. Another one. African wattled lapwing, again, very common. Egyptian goose, looks like he's displaying to the other one, but I think he was just having a bath. Hammercock, again, another monotypic family. It's sort of related to herons, and it gets its name from the hammer-type head shape. And they build, for the size of the bird, they build a massive big stick nest in trees. I think, wow, the bird must be monstrous. It's only these little guys. Here's the Lucas bird, the purple grenadier. This is the female. The males are quite, I didn't photograph him, but they are really purple. They're really attractive looking. Some wildebeest and zebra waiting to cross. Zebra in the water, and the only zebra we saw cross at this point, this was now in Kenya, in the Masai Mara. We stayed for 9 hours in the vehicle, and the only beast that crossed was one zebra, and it was on the other side to everything else. And you might see the crocodile here, and there was a massive vehicles there, and everybody was cheering the zebra on, and it did make it, got across. And these are the others actually watching it while it was crossing. And it's a close-up of a grey heron, quite a common bird throughout Africa and also through Asia. The lilac-breasted roller, say the multicoloured bird that most people, even if they don't know birds, go to Africa, come away with wowing over this bird. And again, they're fairly common, which is good. And sunset on the last day with a vulture and a stork in the tree and some wildebeest in the foreground. And I think that's it.